Good morning, and thanks very much to each and every one of you for being here. Today is an exciting day for conservation in Australia and an exciting day for conservation around the world. When people think about the environment, their minds normally turn immediately to the land. We look at our national parks, we look at our wilderness areas. Increasingly, we've started to think as a world about the shared resources that we have, about the fact that we share an atmosphere and there's global responsibility for that, and that we share our oceans and there's global responsibility for that too. The majesty of marine life is something you can get a small window to when you visit a place like here at the Sydney Aquarium. But let's face it, here is magnificent for tourists to have a look at it because it's a small snapshot of the magnificent canvas that is our oceans. Not many nations are islands, and only one of the nations of the world is an island continent. That means in terms of looking after and having responsibility for our oceans, there's no country in the world positioned the way Australia is. Paul Keating, as Prime Minister, set about an objective where he said it should be possible for us to have a network of marine sanctuaries that are adequate, representative, comprehensive. Today, that becomes a reality. The legislation's been sitting there for more than a decade. The Howard government made decisions with respect to the southeast part of our oceans, but went no further. And today, we finished the job. When you look around our oceans, and I want to take you through to the different regions, but effectively, if you think of that great Australian game that we all played as kids on the beach, a child with a bucket playing on the beach. It's been the same game for about 100 years or more, but the contents of the bucket are different now to what they used to be. They're chemically different, they're physically different. The water is a different chemical composition now to what it was 100 years ago because of acidification, because of pollution. Physically, it contains less life than it used to. The chemical constraints and the physical appearance of plastics in there is different to what it used to be. It's time for the world to turn a corner on protection of our oceans, and Australia today leads that next step with the most comprehensive network of marine parks in the world. It's been a great process of consultation. Wherever we could achieve the same environmental outcome in a way that minimised the impact on commercial fishers, we have made those choices. Wherever we could achieve the same environmental outcome and take into account the needs of people who enjoy that recreational pastime of that great pastime of wreck fishing, we've made sure that we've worked with that as well. And with the oil and gas industry, wherever we could achieve the same environmental outcomes, we've made decisions that work with the economic opportunity for Australians. We've been able to do all of that without holding back the great level of ambition that is realised today. If I start with the southwest of our oceans, that go through from the Great Australian Bight all the way round and find their way up for the first half of the coast of Western Australia. There are marine features here that are of extraordinary importance. People have asked us in a very big campaign, in particular in Western Australia, but in parts of South Australia as well, where they've asked us to push the boundaries, and we've done that. Off Kangaroo Island now, there's a highly protected area that's been added. There's a further area in the Great Australian Bight known as Twilight, which has been added to the areas there. There's an oil and gas exclusion zone off the Margaret River area, which has been added in these final boundaries. Geograph Bay previously had no areas listed as Marine National Park. It now has 2. The Perth Canyon, an underwater canyon larger than the Grand Canyon. If it was on land, it would have been protected years ago. But because it's underwater, it doesn't get protected until these decisions are made in 2012. So the Perth Canyon will now have 2 areas highly protected. One further back in the depths of the canyon and one area highly protected approaching around the north head of the canyon. Geograph Bay I referred to. We also have an area highly protected that comes in off a canyon that runs off the back of the Abrolhos Islands and in the Jurien area as well. We then go to the northwest area. In the northwest, we have added levels of protection around Montebello, and we've extended the boundaries of the protected area that goes across the top of the magnificent West Kimberley. Then in the northern marine areas, there are some areas here in the Gulf of Carpentaria which are of extraordinary importance. There was some discussion with the northern prawn industry where they asked us to shift the boundary a little bit that would make a significant difference to the commercial operations there, and we've done that. We've added some highly protected area within Limmen. Limmen is an extraordinary area of seagrass meadows, important home to dugong sea turtles, and an area worthy of the protection that gets received today. When we move then to the Temperate East, the Temperate East I know has been a hotbed of discussions around recreational fishing, and I want to explain exactly what's happened here. Certainly there are some highly protected areas that you'll see, in particular in areas out near Lord Howe Island and out at Norfolk Island. There are very few restrictions on recreational fishing along the Temperate East. Effectively, if you're south of Mackay and you're powering east from where you are, you're pretty hard pressed to find an area where recreational fishing would be banned. In fact, if you're travelling from Mackay, you've got to power out for about 400k before you'd be able to reach one of the areas that would subsequently be closed to recreational fishing. Notwithstanding that, in particular the reserves that have been put off the coast at Lord Howe Island and at Norfolk Island, there's some incredibly important natural features and pristine areas that go into protection as part of this decision. But make no mistake, the jewel in the crown of the entire process goes to the Coral Sea. In the Coral Sea, combined with the Great Barrier Reef, what we announced today becomes the largest marine protected area in the world. The Coral Sea boundaries in the draft maps were already pretty ambitious, but we have pushed the boundaries even further. There was a significant call during the consultation period for there to be more protection of the majestic reefs of the Coral Sea. Today, in the maps that are released, we have extended the draft boundaries for the Coral Sea Marine Park to include in the Marine National Park area Marion Reef, Osprey Reef, Shark Reef, Vima Reef and Bougainville Reef. Osprey Reef is one of the most highly prized dive sites in the world. Today, Osprey Reef is being put forward as also being part of a marine national park, the Coral Sea Marine National Park, that, as I said, combined with the Great Barrier Reef area, becomes the largest marine protected area in the world. It's been a long time since Paul Keating first referred to there being a prospect for a great Labor reform in protection of our oceans. There's been a lot of consultation that's happened in the interim, and we've made sure that we've worked as closely as we could with the different industries and the different people who look to our oceans for recreation and for livelihood. We've kept those impacts to a minimum, but let's not pretend there aren't people who have a significant impact on their livelihood by today's decision. Any conservation decision does involve impacts of that nature. We'll be working on a case-by-case basis with individual businesses now that the maps are out to work out how that displacement policy should be implemented. Effectively, the template that the Howard government set for displacement policy when they dealt with the Southeast is the template that we'll be adopting on those discussions. Different businesses are affected in different ways. And I should add when I was going through the no oil and gas off Margaret River, there will be no oil and gas across the entirety of that Coral Sea area. Anywhere that's a marine national park becomes an oil and gas exclusion zone, plus the Margaret River area, plus the entirety of the Coral Sea area. no matter what colour it is. This is a massive step forward in ocean protection. It's a bigger step forward than the globe has ever previously seen. Australia is a good manager of its fisheries, but that doesn't mean we can't go a step further and establish a national parks estate within the ocean. There are more formal processes to go, but up until now people have been wondering and lobbying as to what the government's position would be. Today, the position of the government is finalised as to what we want these parks to look like. The next stage of consultation has to happen by law. It goes for 60 days. It'll be formally activated in the next few weeks. When it's activated though, the question is no longer what colour should the boundaries be, where should lines be drawn. The next question that has to be asked by law for 60 days will be, do we go ahead with it or do we not? I've got no doubt what my view is and how I want that consultation to run. But it's a statutory process to go through. We go through it today. But as of now, the government's position could not be clearer. We want there to be a comprehensive network of marine parks across our oceans. We have decided to become the world leader in marine protection, and that's a decision that we take today and maps that we release formally now.